But what I want to do is sort of think about not how entrenched this global food system is, for it is, but what we can do about it. And there are a number of ways in which we are induced to behave. I mean, we're encouraged, for example, to go into supermarkets and to buy something that says fair trade and shade grown and dolphin friendly, tuna compatible, pro grasshopper, no small bits of children's fingers. And of course, the minute you step into a supermarket is the minute you step into the food system's ground zero. The world's largest employer is Walmart, and if you look down the list of the world's largest employers, 3 of the top 10 are supermarkets. These are massive entities in the global food system that are really that control the food system in ways that we haven't seen really in a very long time. Not since the British East India Company have we seen this kind of level of control of the food system from farm to fork, as the way that supermarkets are now starting to write and engineer legislation. But I guess the problem for me is the idea that we can shop our way out of this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I buy fair trade coffee, right? But the reason I buy fair trade coffee is because I care about what farmers want. And if you care about what farmers want, why not ask them? And so I was at a recent World Fund for Agricultural Development conference, and there was this sort of impromptu survey of farmers groups. And it was put to them, so what would you like? Here's a sort of list of things, including fair trade, and just rank them in order. Whatever you want most, rank number 1, and fair trade, rank that way you will. And so the number 1 thing that farmers want is land reform. And the number 2 thing that farmers wanted at that conference was access to water. The number 3 thing that farmers wanted was access to sustainable technology. The number 6 thing that farmers wanted was fair trade. Now, of course, that ought to give us pause when we think, we're going to solve everything by shopping. No, you can't get land reform by shopping for it. There's no label for land reform on something when you go into the supermarket. We can't get access to water by shopping for it. You can't get access to sustainable technology by shopping for it. That's not to say we shouldn't do these things, but it means that we need to think of ourselves much more than as consumers. We need to think of ourselves as political agents in the food system. And that's something that a range of groups around the world are doing. I could talk about slow food, but I imagine that's something that's come up a few times. That's right, of course. And but did Carlo mention the roots of slow food?
Not really.
This is fun. Here's something that, the bad rap that slow food gets about being the sort of middle-class supper club, right? We hear this bad rap from time to time. Now, what's very interesting about Carlo is that he was to the left of the Italian Communist Party. When he started, he's a man of very deep political conviction and deep political roots. He's been organizing for a very long time in order to make sure that people have good, clean, and fair food. What are the 2 things you need to have good, clean, and fair food? You need time and you need money. And so he was part of political organizing in order to make sure that agricultural workers, remember the poorest paid people in any country, agricultural workers were unionized and were paid better wages. And then that they had a 2-hour lunch break to be able to enjoy their food. Slow food was never just about, that everyone, just a few people must be allowed to have fine olive oil. It's about a deep understanding about who deserves pleasure, and the answer to that question is everyone. And so in order for everyone to have pleasure, we need to change the way that our society works and the way our economy works, so that everyone has the time and the money to enjoy good food. And that radical democratic moment in slow food isn't just to be found in Italy, but it's to be found in a range of countries. And I guess I want to leave as much time as possible for questions. So I'm going to just end with really one of the movements that I find most inspirational. And it's a movement called La Via Campesina. Because they have, I know that food sovereignty was on some of your reading lists this week. And La Via Campesina came up with this idea of food sovereignty because they were pushing back against these neoliberal policies. Neoliberal policies that were introduced by groups like the World Bank. Actually, ought I to explain the World Bank? Should I do that World Bank thing? Do people know the World Bank thing? You've done the, yeah, I know you don't do the World Bank thing. I'm going to do the World Bank thing. For those of you who haven't heard this, and I know most of you have now, actually, really, who's heard the World Bank thing?
Do the World Bank thing.
No, I'll do the World Bank thing. Thank you. I feel like I'm allowed. So the World Bank thing. Those of you who don't know about the World Bank and who don't understand these neoliberal policies, think about the Terry Gilliam film Time Bandits. Those of you who haven't seen it, it's a film about the universe, about the creation of the universe. As we know, the universe was built in 6 days, so it was a rush job. And God had help, but he didn't treat his workers very well. So those, there are holes in the universe, and these disgruntled workers jump through the various holes in the universe, robbing people. And so in one scene, they rob Napoleon, and they jump through a hole in the universe, and they end up in Sherwood Forest, where they are met by Robin Hood, who's played by John Cleese. He's a British upper-class actor, and he plays Robin Hood as an upper-class twit. Hood is wearing this big green hat and introduces himself as Hood. And so Hood's very excited to see all Napoleon stuff, and he says, well, thank you very much indeed. The poor will love this. Have you met the poor? They're charming people. Of course, they don't have 2 pennies to rub together, but that's because they're poor. Well, let's give this stuff away. Bring on the poor. So the poor are brought on. This line of disheveled people are brought on. Hood works the line. Gilded mirror for you. Yes, jolly good. Well done. And how long have you been poor? Jolly good. Yes. And then next to Hood is this big bloke who takes whatever Hood has given and punches the poor person in the face. So that's how the World Bank works. That's the essence of the, and the reason that that's like the World Bank is for a number of reasons. I mean, in part it's because the World Bank is this bank, it's giving away things and it's taking them back. It's also because the World Bank comes with the punch in the face of these neoliberal economic policies that reduce the amount of money that's given to farming, that put farmers at the winds of the free market and allow their the global firms to actually sort of take advantage of them. But it's also this sort of sanctimonious approach of, have you met the poor? We had lunch with the poor yesterday. They love us. And in fact, that misrepresentation of the poor is integral to the way that the World Bank works. It needs to be able, folk at the World Bank aren't sort of bald villains sitting in, not all of them. Most of the people at the World Bank are not bald villains sitting in leather chairs, stroking white cats, going, we have destroyed the global South. A lot of people, they feel like we do this because it's the right thing to do, and the theory drives us this way, and we try to be as accountable as we can.